During a family vacation, my husband's parents insisted I sit at a separate table. So, this happened last month, and I'm still not over it. My 32F husband, 34M, and I were invited to a week-long family vacation organized by his parents. They had booked a nice house near the lake, and the plan was to have the whole family together, his parents, his brother and sister, and us. It was supposed to be relaxing. It was anything but. From the moment we arrived, I felt like a guest, not family. His mom greeted my husband with a huge hug and beamed at his brother's girlfriend like she was royalty. Me? A stiff hello and a once-over that made me feel like I wore something offensive. I was literally in jeans and a t-shirt. But I tried. I helped in the kitchen, offered to do grocery runs, even volunteered to watch their dog when everyone went hiking. I had a twisted ankle, so I couldn't go. I thought I was being helpful, friendly, warm. Then came dinner. It was the third night. We were going to this lakeside restaurant his mom had apparently been dying to visit. We drove separately because the reservation was under his dad's name, and they went ahead. When we got there, the hostess looked at us a bit awkwardly and said, "Oh, you must be the rest of the group. They're already seated. You're over here." She led us to a small table for two, away from the rest of the family. I thought it was a mistake. I laughed a little and said, "No, we're with the big group." She glanced toward the large table by the window and said, "Yes, they said to seat you here." I turned to my husband, expecting him to correct it. Instead, he looked embarrassed and said, "Yeah, my mom said the table was full and it would be less cramped this way." I was floored, completely stunned. They had reserved a table for the family, but somehow didn't count me in. I looked over, and sure enough, there was a spot where his sister's friend was sitting, sipping wine like this was a weekly thing. I asked him, "And you're okay with this?" He shrugged and said, "It's just one dinner." We sat. I didn't eat much. He tried to make small talk like it wasn't the most humiliating moment of my adult life. I just kept thinking, how am I not considered part of this family? When we got back to the rental house, I locked myself in the guest room and cried. He came in later, saying I was making a big deal out of something that wasn't meant to be personal. I asked him point blank if he had defended me, if he even asked why I was being excluded. He didn't. I told him I was done with this vacation. The next morning, I packed up and took a cab to the nearest train station. I went home, alone. It's been 3 weeks. He's back, and things are tense. I told him I need space to think, because if this is how his family sees me, and how little he pushes back, I'm not sure I want to be part of it anymore. 'Tis been about a month since I left the vacation early, and a lot has happened. After I came home, I stayed with my sister for a while. I needed space, not just from my husband, but from everything. I felt humiliated, invisible, and worst of all, unsupported. It wasn't just the restaurant. It was the way he let it happen. The way no one in that family seemed to think twice about treating me like an outsider. My husband texted a few times while I was gone, mostly things like, "Can we talk?" or "You're overreacting, please come home." But the tone always felt off, like he was more upset about the inconvenience than the actual hurt I was feeling. Eventually, I agreed to meet him. Neutral ground, coffee shop, public, safe. He showed up with flowers and a kind of sheepish smile like he was hoping it would all just blow over. He said he had talked to his mom and that she didn't mean anything by it, and I should try not to take things so personally. I told him that's exactly the problem. No one took it personally because no one thought of me as a person in the first place. I asked him, "Why didn't you say something, even quietly to her, even just stand up and sit with me instead?" His answer, "I didn't want to cause a scene." That was the moment something in me shifted, because I realized that's who he was, a peacekeeper, but not for me, for them. He would rather let me sit alone than upset his mom. I told him I needed more than just an apology. I needed to know he was willing to stand up for me, to prioritize me, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. He said he loved me. I believe he thinks he does. But love without action, without protection, it's just words. So I told him I wanted a break, a real one. Not just time at my sister's, but space to really think about whether this relationship is what I want for the rest of my life. I'm not saying we're done. I haven't made that decision yet. But I've started therapy, just for me. I've been journaling, walking, sleeping better than I expected. And for the first time in a while, I'm starting to feel like it's been a little over 2 months since everything happened. Since then, a lot of people, friends, even some Reddit strangers, have asked me, was it really just about a table? And the answer is no. It was never just about the table. It was about what the table represented, a literal and emotional separation, a choice that was made without me, and worse, accepted by the one person who was supposed to be on my side. During this time apart, my husband and I did meet a few more times. Some conversations were calm, others ended in tears or silence. He kept repeating the same things. It wasn't that deep, or I didn't know how to handle it, and eventually, why can't you just let it go? But the more we talked, the more I realized we were speaking different languages. I wanted partnership, protection, emotional presence. He wanted comfort, compliance, and to avoid conflict. One day, after another long and circular talk, I asked him very directly, "If this happened again, if your mom did something like this to me again, what would you do?" He didn't answer. He just looked down and said, "I don't know." And that was it. It wasn't just about the past. It was about the future. I couldn't build a life with someone who didn't know if he'd choose me when it mattered. Last week, I filed for separation. It was painful. There were tears. He looked shocked, almost like he never thought I'd actually walk away. But I did, because staying would have been slowly teaching myself that my voice, my place, my value don't matter. Since then, I've moved into a small apartment. It's quiet. There's a coffee shop on the corner where they know my name now. I read again. I cook for myself, and sometimes I still cry. But now it feels clean, like something is finally being released. And here's the wild part. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just relieved, because I stopped waiting to be chosen. I chose me. It's been almost a year since I walked away. Sometimes I still get flashbacks to that night at the lake. The clink of silverware, the way laughter floated from their table while I sat apart, like a ghost watching a family I thought I was part of. But now, those memories don't sting like they used to. They feel more like echoes from another life. Because here's the truth. Breaking up wasn't the end. It was the beginning. At first, I thought healing would be about moving on from him, from his family, from the rejection. But healing turned out to be something bigger. It was learning to love silence again. It was realizing I could assemble a bookshelf, fix a leaky faucet, and file my own taxes. It was waking up on a Sunday and asking, "What do I want to do today?" and actually having an answer. I went back to school part-time. Nothing huge, just a course in interior design, something I always wanted to try but never did because it was impractical. Now, I'm freelancing, helping people make their homes feel like them. Warm, safe, whole. I made new friends, not the through his family kind, but the real kind. People who ask how I'm actually doing. People who would never let me sit at a separate table. And then, the weirdest thing happened. One night, I ran into his sister. We made awkward small talk, and then she apologized. She said she never realized how excluded I'd been until she started dating someone new and saw how different things could be. It didn't fix anything, but it made something inside me unclench. Not long after, I got a message from him. Just one line. "I get it now. I'm sorry it took losing you to see it." I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to anymore. Some stories don't need a reunion, just a closing page. I don't know where life is taking me next, but I know this. If I ever find myself at another table, I'll make damn sure I'm invited properly. Or I'll bring my own table and fill it with people who see me. I wasn't looking for anyone. That sounds like a cliché, but it was true. I had carved out a life that finally felt like mine. I wasn't swiping, searching, or even daydreaming about what could be. I was too busy being. Then one morning, I was at the little bookstore cafe near my apartment, my weekend ritual. I was curled up in a corner, flipping through a design magazine, sipping my usual chai latte. That's when I heard it. "You always sit in this spot?" I looked up. It was a man I'd seen a few times, tall, kind eyes, a bit scruffy, always reading poetry or something obscure that made me curious. We'd exchanged polite nods before, but nothing more. I smiled. "Only when it's free." He laughed and gestured to the chair across from me. "Mind if I join? My laptop's dying and your corner has the only outlet." I nodded. Simple, casual, but something shifted. That was the beginning. We talked about books, then music, then life. Not in the intense romantic way where you're trying to impress each other, but in that comfortable rhythm, like you're already friends. Things with him, let's call him Eli, have been steady, kind, comfortable in the best way. He never pushed. He never asked for more than I was ready to give, and for the first time in my life I wasn't anxious waiting for a message or overanalyzing tone. It was just easy. And yet, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sometimes in the middle of a good day, I'd get this sharp little voice in the back of my head. "Don't get too used to this. You know how this ends." And I hated that I still carried that voice with me. That even after all the healing, all the growth, I still didn't fully trust peace. One evening, we were sitting on the floor of my apartment, sharing takeout and talking about nothing in particular. He said something funny and I laughed, really laughed, and then I just froze because it felt too good, too safe. And I realized in that moment that I was scared of being happy. Eli noticed. He always does. "Where'd you go just now?" he asked gently. I almost lied. I almost said nowhere. But instead, I took a breath and told the truth. "I think I'm still scared that if I let this feel real, I'll lose it, like I did before." He didn't flinch, didn't try to fix it. He just nodded and said, "Okay, then we'll take it slow. We'll let it feel real in little pieces." And that meant everything. Because love, real love, isn't just about grand gestures. It's about someone seeing your fear and not backing away from it, not asking you to be less messy, less cautious, less you. So no, I'm not in some perfect fairy tale. I still flinch when I hear his phone buzz late at night. I still triple check if I've said something wrong. But now there's someone beside me who says, "You don't have to earn your seat at this table. You're already at it." And maybe, finally, I believe him. It's a rainy evening, the kind I used to associate with loneliness. Now, I welcome it. There's jazz playing low in the background, my cat is asleep near the heater, and I just finished rearranging the bookshelves again, not because they needed it, but because I like the ritual of it, the quiet, the order, the sense that things are where they belong, including me. Eli's at his place tonight. We still keep our own apartments, by choice, by rhythm. We've both lived enough lives to know that love doesn't mean merging into one identity. It means witnessing each other fully and letting each other stay whole. Sometimes people ask, "So, are you together?" And the answer is yes, but not in the way the world usually defines it. There's no rush to move in, no talk of rings or timelines, just presence, kindness, the feeling that we both can exhale when we're near. But this story, this journey, it's not really about him, is it? It's about me. The woman who once sat alone at a restaurant table and questioned her worth, now lights a candle at her own table every night, even if no one's joining her. I no longer wait for permission to take up space. I don't measure my value by someone else's comfort, and I've learned that solitude isn't the same as loneliness. Sometimes it's peace. I still have days where the past creeps in. Triggers, echoes, dreams where I'm back in that rental house, invisible again. But now I wake up, pour myself coffee, and remind myself that version of me doesn't live here anymore. So if you're reading this, maybe from your own quiet place, maybe after your own heartbreak, let me tell you this. You don't have to wait to be invited to the table. Build your own, make it sturdy, set it with everything you love, and when the right people come, you'll know. They'll sit, they'll stay, they'll bring dessert. But even if no one knocks on the door tonight, you'll still be home. It started small. A friend of a friend was going through a breakup, the kind that leaves you feeling like someone stole the floor from under you. She didn't want to talk to anyone, but someone gave her my number and said, "She's been there." We met for tea. I didn't give advice. I didn't quote anything inspirational. I just listened. At the end, she said quietly, "You're like living proof it gets better." I smiled. It doesn't just get better. You get stronger. That was the beginning. Soon I started volunteering once a week at a local women's center, not in any dramatic way, just being there, helping with resumes, watching kids during counseling sessions, offering warm drinks and warmer silence. And I noticed something. The more I gave, the more I grew. Not because I needed to fix anyone, but because I remembered what it was like to be unseen, unheard, uninvited. Now I invite. I started a little supper group at my place, once a month, open door, potluck style. Some of the guests come late, some come heartbroken, some come shy, but they all leave a little fuller, in more ways than one. Eli helps sometimes, but mostly, this is my thing. My table, my circle, and the most healing moment. One evening, I watched two women, strangers until that night, Sit in my kitchen, laughing like sisters. I stepped back, leaned against the doorway, and just let it wash over me. This wasn't the life I planned. It's better because it's mine. And maybe that's what real healing is. Not erasing the past, not replacing it, but composting it, letting it feed something new, something alive, something that feeds others. It was a Tuesday, gray skies, slow rain, the kind of chill that makes the world feel like it's wrapped in cotton. I woke up alone. Eli had stayed the night before, but left early. Work trip, a quiet kiss on the forehead, the smell of his cologne lingering on the pillow, and for a moment I felt that feeling again, the one I used to fear, the echo, the too quiet room, the version of me that once believed, if I'm alone, I must be missing something. But this time, something was different. I didn't rush to fill the silence. I didn't reach for my phone. I just lay there, breathing. There was no panic, no ache, only presence. I got up, made coffee, sat by the window with my blanket wrapped around me like armor, watched the rain trace slow silver lines down the glass. And it hit me, really hit me. I don't need anyone right now, not because I've hardened, but because I've softened toward myself. This wasn't the absence of love. This was the presence of peace. I didn't achieve it like a goal. I didn't force it through journaling or yoga or therapy, though all of those helped. It just came, like sunlight creeping through closed blinds, like your own name whispered kindly in a dream, like learning that the sound of your own breath in a quiet room is not a warning. It's a song. I used to think healing would be loud, triumphant, cinematic, fireworks and speeches and breakthroughs.